Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Megajon, and today we're going to continue our deep dive into the Stealth Training Arenas program. We'll be following the same format as the last video, where we go over the main mission, its alternative version, and any Easter eggs or references associated with it. This time around, we're going to be focusing on Mission 2. This should go without saying, but this will spoil the challenges in said mission, so don't watch this if you want to experience the mission with fresh eyes. So without further ado, let's get into it. Stealth Mission 2 isn't necessarily much tougher in concept, it's more of a test of your limited ability to explore an enemy-infested area and logically deducing how to reach your objective. Enemies will change with every new mission you encounter. Before, only being seen means you die and have to try again, but this time, the same is true if you touch any part of their bodies. Like if your arm brushes past a guard's body, or if you jump on them, you'll be discovered and killed. M3G4 told us we need to make contact with an ally calling himself Gladiator to ensure his safety. When you start the mission, keen eyes will notice someone inside one of the cells. A man fitting the description M3G4 provided can be seen there. So now it's a matter of finding a way in the cell. But whether you see him right away or not, there's only one way out of here. This hall is completely blocked off by the enemy sightlines. But the other hall is another story. Sidestepping is a very useful way to get through narrow obstacles, and this mission is meant to hammer that point home. Even though you don't necessarily have to use that technique at all. You could play it safer by pressing forward against the wall in a third-person view and pressing a left or right direction depending on your positioning. Full disclosure, I use the W, A, S, and D keys to move since it's generally more efficient and offers a greater level of precision than arrow keys. Whichever way you wish to proceed though, getting past these two sentinels is easy enough. You'll see another hall with those same guards from earlier and two locked cell doors. Don't bother going there, it's a dead end. But with this guy, you can sidestep again to get past him and into the cafeteria. I prefer to jump past these guys, since my arms will be up in the air while I'm jumping, so the chances of my arms touching the sentinel are much lower. But executing clean jumps might require some degree of precision, so perform the jump if you're feeling confident. The sentinel after that can simply be walked around. Be warned though, your character's a bit of a fat ass and will automatically sip when you come into contact with the chair, but once you get past that part, you'll see an open door and another hall. You can explore the other area beyond the hall to some extent if you so desire, but that won't exactly lead you anywhere meaningful, so going into the soldiers' sleeping quarters is the way to go. You're probably seeing a trend in the level design here. It's as much about evading your enemies in tight spaces as it is about finding which path is the right way to go. The guard in the sleeping quarters is a minor inconvenience in the grand scheme of things. You can just walk around him, walk on the top bunks on either side of him, or even walk through the bottom bunks to progress. But once we make it to the exit of the room, you can see some blood on the floor, bullet casings, and even a bullet hole in the wall. You can play detective and draw some conclusions based on this, the implication being that Gladiator exited this room into a guard's line of sight. He was shot twice as he tried to escape, and one of the shots missed and went into the wall here. And the blood trail leads back into the room but doesn't go much further beyond what we see here. So in other words, we're on the right track. And now we're on the other side of the sentinels again, only this time we're beside the elevator. Clicking on the button lets us in. Going up. Once we make it to the floor above, we see more guards. Don't try sidestepping past this guy here, some spaces will indeed be too narrow to go through, but going past this other sentinel is definitely possible. This big space behind him allows for enough room to walk by. You could also just take the long way into the supply room. Nothing really in here besides boxes and crates. You will, however, have to contend with the sentinel sightlines at the exit, should you choose not to go back through the shorter and easier way. Down to other corridors, yet even more boxes and crates. But with all of that behind us, we're in the home stretch. There's 4 places of note we've yet to try. You could be a funny guy and try to go through the exit, but that'll prompt M3G4 to scold you for trying to abort the mission. For those that need a little extra help, he drops an important hint. The air vents being a key point of interest. As for the other parts of the area we've yet to explore, going down the stairs is essentially a dead end. This door in the corner is locked, and that only leaves us with this open door. You can get past these two guys by either jumping or sidestepping like I said before, but jumping, for me anyway, has always been easier than lining up to sidestep past these sentinels. The last guard inside isn't too hard to avoid, but he could potentially catch you off guard if you don't check where you're going before you proceed. Now that we're in front of the air conditioning unit, you can walk into either of these 4 air vents. Don't panic if you pick the wrong one. You can always just jump back up to the vent on the roof to reappear back in the AC room and try again. Each vent does in fact correspond to the cell number, but as opposed to just guessing the right vent, keen eyes may see some blood inside one of them. So with this visual clue, you can deduce that Gladiator is in this cell. And just like that, we've beaten Stealth Mission 2. I won't say that Alt Mission 2 is tougher. That's objective, of course. It just presents a different set of obstacles, different enemy types, and even environmental hazards are things you'll have to contend with. Stealth is less of a focus in this mission, but there's a much greater emphasis on strategy and traversal. As M3G4 put it, the bottom floor is completely flooded, and we need to fish a CD out of there. But there's still security to worry about, however. You're not allowed to leave the prison until you show the CD to him. But once you leave the exit hall, there are a total of 3 ways to go downstairs. A general rule of thumb for these paths is that the shorter they are, the more challenging it'll be to get through. The toughest way down is to face away from this wall. Keep pressing up against the wall with the directional button, and lightly tap the right directional button to inch your way past the sentinel's line of sight until you get to the bottom of these stairs. It's really difficult to pull off, so I'd recommend trying the elevator shaft instead. For that, there are 2 ways to get there. You can walk past this patroller and outside the end of the sniper's line of sight. You can't cut through the AC room, unfortunately. This is a really tight space, but once you hop over this opened door, you can move forward provided the scout isn't facing toward you, and that the other one that walks the halls won't intercept you. The longer and objectively safest way is to wait until the coast is clear around the corner of the exit hall and enter the storage room. After you're in a relatively safe zone, you'd have to worry about the scout that walks in and out of the room. He may not even be there depending on when you enter. Make your way through the room and toward the elevator. Try not to get caught off guard by the scout near the elevator though. And once you make it, you can open the door and drop down the elevator shaft into the water from here. If you choose either of the paths that take you here, you can search around for the disc, but keep an eye on your oxygen meter. You can use big openings like the elevator shaft or stairs to come up to breathe, but you'll see plenty of blown open vents you can use to catch your breath as well. When you go swimming around here, make sure you know where to find those so you don't drown. Now the disc is actually in cell 8, which is at the far end of this floor. You can swim through these halls, past the cafeteria, the stairs from earlier, push through these boxes, and collect the CD. A shorter way to get there would be to exit the elevator shaft, swim through the sleeping quarters, dislodge these boxes from the doorway, and come out on the other end close to the stairs. The way to get the disc is the same as before. Of course, come up for air if you're running low. If you drown or get spotted, you'll lose the disc and have to do this all over again. The simplest way back up would probably be to swim back to the elevator shaft and use whatever footholds you see to make it back up to the top. After that, you essentially can reverse the path you came from. Either option is totally viable. The quickest way back up to the upper floor would be to swim to the stairwell after you collect the disc and face this wall once you're standing upright, and very carefully shimmy your way up to the top, and to walk through the exit hall. Your arms move back and forth in your running animation, which is why inching your way up the stairs is recommended. Whichever way you choose will lead you back to where you started, hopefully with the disc in hand. Once you have the CD out for M3G4, you're allowed to go up to the surface and into the yard. And that's Alternative Mission 2 complete. To start things off in this section of the video regarding Easter eggs and differences, let's talk about the man Stealth Mission 2 revolves around. Gladiator. He is in fact a real person. One of my oldest friends I met through Roblox. His line at the end of the mission, "Took you long enough," is something he actually said to me once jokingly. Glad if you're watching this, you're awesome. Free roam is almost identical to Stealth Mission 2's arena, with the biggest difference being that the doors are all opened, save for the exit. In free roam, there's a second AC room that's inaccessible to the player. It connects to cells 5 through 8 though, and while we're in these cells you can actually sit on the toilets. Doing so will prompt you to make one of 7 randomized faces every time you sit on one of these. Try it out for yourself if you're curious about all the faces you could make. Another random thing you could do in every version of this place is pick up a bar of soap by the cafeteria sink. It serves no functional purpose whatsoever, but it's funny to sneak around guards with nothing but a bar of soap that apparently kills 100% of germs. Even in Alt Mission 2, you can find the bar of soap in there, but with the only difference being the tooltip, which you can read by hovering your mouse cursor over the item. But speaking of Alt Mission 2, the prison yard is something exclusive to this mission. You can even spot some distant details like the security camera at the top of that building. Don't worry, it can't see us. You might think the bottom floor being flooded has something to do with the pipes you see throughout the facility. The valve on the bottom floor having been rotated compared to how it appears in the other versions of Mission 2 lends credence to this theory. But anyway, you may recall that I made mention of Stealth Missions 1 through 3 being remade. There isn't a whole lot to the way these halls look, but these new textures, models, additional props, set dressing, and lighting help to sell the feeling of being underground, in my opinion. What a difference 8 years makes, huh? But when I originally designed this mission, the look was meant to pay homage to an earlier game I made called Exfiltration Mission, which predates STAP. They sort of share the same DNA aesthetically. But that aside, there's actually a few things to point out about the hub areas for both Stealth and Alternative Mission 2, respectively. In Stealth Mission 2's hub area, the same logic from earlier applies to the toilet here too. Another thing of note is what happens when you try to use the elevator. The last thing of note is this mission info thumbnail you see before entering, which shows Gladiator hiding in a cell. A big hint as to where you can find him if you're playing for the first time. As for Alt Mission 2's area, you can't do anything wild like what you just saw, but it's worth mentioning that you could see the number 6 painted on the teleporter's border. A bit of a hint as to where you could find the disc. But with all that being said, that pretty much covers everything from Mission 2. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe if you're interested in this sort of thing. Use the link in the description if you're interested in trying the game out for yourself. Till next time, all hail yeah.